Hey, fifth grade. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I hope you're having a really good day and you're not getting pinched too much. Be kind to your families. I miss you so much, but I've been busy. I worked on some art last night, and Mr. Daly also went with me to the store to get a new camera so that you guys could hear me better and see me better. So hopefully it's kind of like being in the classroom. You can also request if you want to what color and what title I should have at the bottom of my screen. Um, it has most of the colors, and then I can change the fonts and type. So hopefully I'll be getting a little bit more fancy for you as this channel keeps going. And I hope you're reading, that you're going to bed with enough sleep, and you're being really kind to everyone in your family. Um, this mug that I'm using today makes me laugh because Mr. Daly is from the East Coast and I'm from the West Coast. And so I got this for him for his birthday. So every time I use it, he gives me a dirty look, and I think it's just so fun. Um, I wanted to show you some art that I made last night that I really don't like, and I wanted to show it to you so that I could hopefully inspire you to be gentle with yourself as you're learning and working hard at something. I'll keep showing you my progression with my watercolors, but something really important as you're working on anything is to just remember that you're going to get better the more you work at it. And if you're really harsh on yourself and you think those negative thoughts, it can stop you from being creative and wonderful. So this is what I created, and I don't like it, but there are some things in it that I do like, and so I'm trying to think about what I do like. I love the way that I layered the shades of the yellow in there, and I like the leaves, and that's about it. So I'll show you my next version of it, but I just wanted to remind you to be really kind to yourself as you're learning and growing. So we're going to get into chapter 2 of the Keeping Room today, and hopefully I can read a couple more chapters. So I'll tell you in the title for this video, and I'll let you know along the way how far we get. But this is the second video for the Keeping Room, and you started to know a little bit about the characters last time. You learned that the father is going off to war and that he is against the British. He is supporting the American Revolution. He wants to be independent from the king. And we know that this family has a mother that is a Quaker. She does not believe in war. And she has a relationship, a friendship with one of her slaves. So there's maybe something there we could look for. And we know that there are two children, a boy and a girl, and we're reading our book from the perspective of the boy. And he is feeling scared when we left off, and he's also looking at his teacher, who is also a Quaker, and really thinking that maybe his belief in not having war is making him weak. But his tutor knows him really well, and he is suggesting that he writes letters to his father while he's away at war. And that was exactly what our main character was thinking he wished he could do. So we know that the tutor knows him really well. We're going to find out more today, and I really hope that you guys enjoy this book. It's one of my favorites. If there's something in here that you're not sure what it is, make a comment, let me know, and I'll reply. Also, if you have more interest in the American Revolution and some details that happened, I will try to link some sites below that you could do a little bit of extra reading about it. Something I forgot to mention yesterday is that if you wanted to keep a journal throughout this time where we don't have school right now, it would be a great way to make a primary source of your experience. So writing down how you're feeling, what you did each day, what do you see? These are all ways to create historical records, and you could be a part of that. So it's pretty exciting. I'm keeping a journal too, and maybe I'll show it on a future video if you guys want me to. So I'll take my last sip of coffee. It's so good. And let's get into our book. So chapter 2. Ooh, it looks like he's writing a letter to his father because the text is all in italics. I'm excited. Okay, here we go. Dear Father, I went to town this morning. Everywhere there was talk of what the British did to Enoch Groves. Do you remember him, the nephew of Mr. James Groves? He came into our store a few times when he visited his uncle. For a time I listened to the talk in town, but then I had to run away. I ran until no one could see me. At Mr. Giles' garden, I stopped. There among the corn stalks, I threw up. I'm not brave. I'm not strong. Battle news filters back to us slowly, but our hopes grow weaker each day. There can be little doubt that despite the efforts of my father and his militia, the Redcoats will come to our town here in Camden, South Carolina. Ooh, I hadn't thought about it, but you could totally go to Google Earth and find out where Camden, South Carolina is. That would be really neat because that's where this is set. Our town was named for Lord Camden, who father says tried to befriend us colonists by arguing in Parliament against the right to tax us without representation. The arguments did not work, and now we are colonists no more. We have declared ourselves free, but we must fight the British to prove our point. I join Mary in the third floor ballroom. Like the stairs, it's unfinished, and the smell of raw pine fills the room. Before father left, Mary would glide across the floor, unmindful of the roughness of the boards beneath her feet, and prattle about future balls and the dresses she would wear to them. Now she sits woefully in the middle of the floor. Will we ever have dances here, Joey? She asks when I enter the room. Mary is but 10, and I am nearer 13 than 12. It is my place to ease her mind, but no words come. I'm glad I have not told Mary about poor Enoch Groves. The ballroom has big windows that make it possible to see for a great distance. I'm drawn there often to watch for the enemy. I stand there now, once more grateful because I only see the green of pine and poplar. No sign of the horrible red uniforms worn by the British. Still, I can imagine that I hear the notes of their fifes and the pounding of their drums. I shake my head, trying not to think of Enoch Groves. So, if you had to predict, write down or just say it out loud, what do you think happened to Enoch Groves? What do you think is making him feel so stuck on this? Do you also think that it's his job as the older brother to make sure his little sister doesn't worry, or do you think he should share with her? The English soldiers know no mercy. The king's henchmen, my father calls them. Even without closing my eyes, I can see Enoch, just 16, barely old enough to go with the Patriots in their unsuccessful attempt to defend the city of Charleston. Enoch was captured by the British, but they paroled him. So to parole is to let somebody go? Just last week, a group of redcoats rode by the Groves place over towards Charleston. Enoch was accused of having escaped from the British. He pleaded for his life and showed the soldiers his papers for parole, but neither begging nor papers made a difference. They killed him in full view of his mother and took him back to their camp. His body was drawn and quartered and stuck up on pikes by the roadside, a British warning to other patriots. So I know that's really scary, and I know it feels really different than the way that our justice system works. So maybe we just take a moment and think, why would they need to do something so awful like that? What is their purpose? How do they share information at this time period? What message are they trying to share with people? And you might remember back to our book we read, Blood on the River, and how our character Samuel was talking about in England how if you were punished, they might see, parts of people on the bridge. So I know it's a little gross, but just a different time. As I stand at the window, it's as if Enoch was there before my eyes. I see the blonde hair streaked with blood, and I shudder. A hand touches my arm, and startled, I jump. But it's only my sister. Joey, she says, I was talking to you. She pauses and looks closely at my face. Are you ill? I think that if I open my mouth, I may throw up again, or perhaps I will scream. With my lips pressed together, I shake my head. Mary is still looking at me. Don't worry, Joey. Father will stop the British. Father will never allow harm to come our way. I swallow hard and am finally able to speak. We'll have dancing on the day Father comes home. I wave my arm to include the entire third floor. Finished or no, there'll be a ball here with fiddle music and laughing. Mary twirls away from me, but I remain by the window. My ears do not hear the laughter or the music of the future ball I have promised Mary. In my mind ring the sobs of Enoch Groves' mother and the chilling sound of British feet keeping time to the drum as they march towards us. From the third floor hallway comes the chimes of our grandfather clock, and I realize it's the appointed hour for lessons. Perhaps setting will make me forget Enoch for a time. Yet it does seem foolhardy to continue with Latin and numbers when the enemy is all but at our door. So why do you think it's important to keep going with education even if there's a war happening or school's canceled? What do you think? Why do we still do it? Make a comment below. Ewan does not share my opinion. He waits for me in the bedroom with a book already open on my desk. I can't settle my mind on studies today, I announce as soon as I've stepped inside. My father. My words trail off because Ewan is shaking his head. Thy father, he says, has issued me wages in advance and told me that thy lessons were to continue. What chores I have been paid for, I will perform. Ewan's legs are long and his arms are strong. True, he deplores violence, but still, I know he would chase me down and carry me back to my books were I to flee. I stare into his eyes and notice that they are cloudy blue. I cannot see through them into his soul. I wonder about this man who clings to the beliefs that men must live peacefully together. My mother's family came to this land as Quakers, just as Ewan's did. Yet my uncle Samuel Mathis took up arms against the British. Would you refuse to fight, Ewan, even if the British came here to kill us all? Ewan is never in a hurry to speak. He looks at me for a moment and smiles. Only boys say for sure what it is they will do in advance of a crisis. A man knows how hard it is to predict anyone's actions, especially his own. He motions for me to come take a seat, but I keep my hand on the door. Might we study again in the keeping room, I ask. And why there? Ewan wants to know, but he begins to gather the books. It's my favorite room. I turn and head towards the stairs. I like the keeping room partly because of the smell. In the air, the spices, teas, and coffee mix with the rum, which my father uses only for special occasions, such as the drink with his officers before their departure. Thoughts of the rum causes me pain, because it will be opened no more until my father's return. How long will the great wooden barrel stand waiting on the corner table? Walking down the stairs with Ewan behind me, I find myself again thinking about Enoch Groves. I try to block the thought from my mind, but I cannot keep from wondering how long before Enoch's head has become only bone. Will the British then take it down, or will they leave him there staring with the empty eye sockets? We settle ourselves at the table where Cato and the other house slaves have their meals. Biddy is busy with her work table, kneading bread. Her new helper is with her. They're both small in stature and step lightly. They will not disturb our lessons. Ewan, however, is careful to greet each of them, using even the helper's name, Tilda, which I had not known. Why do you think he greets every slave by name? What do we know about Quakers? Yeah, they don't believe in having slaves. They're going to be some of the first abolitionists fighting against slavery. And he's going to make a point to greet them all specifically by name. So as the teacher, he's possibly trying to pass some of that idea onto his student. Ewan, because of his Quaker ways, does not believe in the holding of slaves, and he treats them as always as equals. My father says religion can do strange things to a man, but he does not see that each baby born into our family, or he does see that each baby born into our family is baptized. Then, too, it was he who gave land to the Presbyterians to build their church there, and he says he will gladly give to any faith that desires to establish a church in Camden. I hope God remembers my father's generosity when the battle comes. Today, says Ewan, we will read a Greek play called Antigone. I'm glad for a break from Latin and numbers, which took all of yesterday's lesson time. At first I enjoy the story of a girl who determines to bury the body of her brother, even though she faces grave danger by doing so. It is the dead, not the living, who make the longest demands, she says. Suddenly I find the words hard to follow. Even though I'm able to read when it's my turn, my mind turns again to Enoch Groves. Might his sister, or perhaps a brother, sneak out to remove his body from the horrible display arranged by the British? Would I have the courage to do such a thing? I'm glad Enoch is not my brother, but rather just a boy I've seen a few times. Enoch's body can make no claim on me, and I shake my head to clear it of all such thoughts. When we've finished our studies, Tilda brings us a plate of hot scones dripping with butter and a pot of tea. I'm surprised when Ewan forgets the lesson and begins to talk to me as if I am his friend. I'm musing on the subject of marriage, young Joseph, he says, and he studies his cup of tea closely as he stirs it with his spoon. I'm pleased to be taken so into his confidence. You think to be married soon? When he nods, I lean across the table with another question. What lady? I ask, and my mind races through the young Quaker ladies of my acquaintance. Hannah Goodnight. Her father was the tanner who died last year. Ewan's voice has music in it when he says her name. I have seen Miss Hannah Goodnight, have often watched her move about my father's store, filling the wicker basket on her arm. I'm not too young to have found her comely. Once a comb slipped from the back of her golden hair and fell into a pile of potatoes at my feet. So powerful is the beauty of Miss Hannah Goodnight that it caused my very insides to tremble as I held the comb out for her. Ooh, I think she's pretty. For a moment, I intend to comment on Ewan on the pleasure of his intended bride that brings to the eye, but then I take a piece of Ewan's own way and think before I speak. Likely such a comment would not be seemly coming from me. I wish you well, I say, and I hold out my hand to shake Ewan's, just as my father would have done. Thy father has paid me well in advance, says Ewan. I'll teach thee for yet another year, and then, if God wills it so, I'll take my wife and head west. It's new country I long to see, as new as this country when it was the first white man that saw it. The last portion of Ewan's speech holds no interest for me. I hear only the part about how my father has paid him for 1 year in advance. Why has my father done this? Is there a possibility that father will be so long as a year away from home? It's May, and the keeping room is warm because of the coals Biddy keeps always burning here on the great stone hearth. But still, I shiver. So what does he realize? Go ahead and comment below. What are we knowing about his father paying him for a year in advance? What's it telling us? So we'll find out a little bit more next time. I'm going to pause this video with just chapter 2, and we'll go to chapter 3 a little bit later. I hope you guys are well, and I'm going to do a big stretch. Take a big deep breath, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.